Joining me now is Sherrilyn Ifill, civil rights attorney and former president and director counsel of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Sherrilyn, it's great to see you. Thank you for being here tonight. I know you are probably as anticipating with great eagerness Beyonce Knowles Carter taking the stage with Kamala Harris, which should be happening momentarily. But I will say, you know, the timing, the event's slightly delayed, and it's a testament to the just incredibly challenging role Kamala Harris has to play as the Democratic presidential nominee in the final stretch of the campaign, and also the Vice President of the United States, who is reportedly and quite obviously dealing with a kinetic situation in the Middle East. We have a readout from the White House that she was briefed on Israel's retaliatory strikes in Iran this evening. Maybe that explains a little bit of the delay, but either way, walk and chew gum is an understatement when it comes to the task at hand for Kamala Harris. Let me just get first your thoughts about going behind enemy lines, as it were, going to the sort of reddish state of Texas to make it the case for abortion. What do you think of that strategy?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Frankly, Alex, you know that, Texas is a state that in which Democrats have not been able to move turnout significantly. In 2020, there were 6 million registered voters in Texas who didn't vote. And so this is less about convincing people who support Donald Trump to support Kamala Harris, and more about getting those registered voters who have sat on their hands to come out and understand what's at stake. And in that sense, tonight, Vice President Harris being pulled into the Situation Room to be briefed on what's happening with Israel and Iran is a part of that. There's lots of talk about whether the vice president is a leader, much of it tinged, in my view at least, with views about women and leadership, particularly in the military lane. And I think the fact that she's being briefed tonight is an important part of this. I do think that people around the world, including Benjamin Netanyahu, are not afraid that she'll be weak. I think they're afraid that she'll be strong. And so I think this is kind of all part and parcel of what she is showing the nation and has been showing the nation over the past few months. You make such a great point about how she's trying to motivate part of the electorate that may otherwise sit on their couch or sit out the election. We have some advanced excerpts from the Harris campaign about some of the stuff the vice president's going to say on stage tonight. And one part really stuck out to me. I want to just read. This is from the remarks she'll be making momentarily in the hour. And though we are in Texas tonight, she's going to say, for anyone watching from another state, if you think you are protected from Trump abortion bans because you live in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, New York, California, or any state where voters or legislators have protected reproductive freedom, please know no one is protected, because a Donald Trump national ban will outlaw abortion in every single state. I really feel like at the final stage of the campaign, it's an incredibly urgent message to communicate, right? Because there does seem to be, I'm not going to say an overconfidence, but it feels like the issue of abortion has lost a little bit of the urgency in the states where there have been protections, whether in the state constitution or the state legislatures. And the vice president's making a very salient point there. A national federal abortion ban, which could easily happen in a Trump second term, will affect these United States. What do you think about underscoring the urgency of that, Sherrilyn, and what else the vice president needs to do to make that case? It's so important, and I think the only piece missing is that the reason we are here and the reason we have some confidence that if Donald Trump signed a national abortion ban, that it would outlaw abortion around the country is because there's also a Supreme Court, with 3 members appointed by Donald Trump, who have demonstrated their willingness to allow these kinds of abortion bans to go forward. And it's dangerous for women all over the country. But, fill in the blank, Alex. We can say this about everything to do with Donald Trump. Donald Trump wants to punish his enemies. He wants to prosecute those he thinks oppose him. There are people in, your industry, in the legal profession, who also believe they will be immune from that. And the truth is, no one is immune. Today, we heard that the Washington Post did not post an editorial opposing Trump and endorsing Vice President Harris because perhaps, this is the story, the owner is worried about losing business deals if Trump becomes president. All of the people who are cowering right now are convincing themselves that on the other side of this, they're not going to face the wrath of Trump. But a dictator is never satisfied, and a dictator as egomaniacal as Trump would likely be, who needs constant obeisance, including from the business community, is never going to stop. And so no one can believe that they are above this. And everyone should understand that sooner or later it will come for them. This is when we should be holding together as a nation. I, too, would like groceries to be cheaper. But most importantly, I'd like to live in a democracy. And so first things first, I think it's really important for Americans to be mature in this moment, to face and to confront what the reality is, the danger is that we are facing, and do what is necessary to protect the republic. And I think Kamala Harris has been making a great case for that. I think her calling Donald Trump a fascist was important. The tiptoeing does not help anyone. Let's get this fight on the terms that it belongs. Let's talk about this on the battlefield that is appropriate to the moment. And I think Harris is really closing her case with that in mind.
Yeah, you know, the great historian Tim Snyder reminds us on the day that the Washington Post and the LA Times, the week that the LA Times both declined to make an endorsement, bucking, you know, decades of tradition, that authoritarianism often doesn't always start or culminate with pitchforks, but acquiescence by people just laying down arms and effectively playing possum. And it's an important message when you see what's happening to our great institutions in the Fourth Estate. Putting a pin in that for a moment, you know, we have a split screen here. You'll see the stage down in Houston. Willie Nelson just finished playing. Jessica Alba took the stage. There are a number of stars that are taking the stage, but there are also women that we are told by the Harris campaign who have stories, horror stories, about their own reproductive challenges, who are going to be telling their stories tonight. And I think one of the things that really distinguishes the conversation that we're having nationally about abortion is from other moments when the issue has been on the front burner, is the fact that women and their experiences have been placed front and center. And that one of the ways Democrats have really underscored the urgency and the sort of wrenching horror of these abortion bans is by telling the stories of what happens to normal, everyday folks as they navigate a landscape that has been just completely adulterated by the Supreme Court's decision. There's a new ad out today from the Harris campaign, and I was struck in a season of really just powerful storytelling. This, to me, is maybe the most powerful ad they've put out yet. This is about Andrea, a young woman who very much wanted to start a family. Let's take a listen to that ad.
Her blanket.
First of all, I'm the one that got rid of Roe v. Wade.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion?
There has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
Women will be happy, healthy, confident, and free. You will no longer be thinking about abortion. It's all they talk about, abortion. You will no longer be abandoned, lonely, or scared. You will no longer have anxiety. You will be protected, and I will be your protector.
Sherrilyn, to juxtapose that woman's story with the sound of Trump praising his decision to appoint Supreme Court justices who would end a woman's right to choose, this powerful stuff, what's your reaction to it?
You know, my reaction watching this, Alex, is that we are in such a powerful political and cultural moment. You know, women have been conditioned to remain silent about a part of our lives that's so important. We start out as girls being quiet and furtive about getting our periods. We don't talk about publicly about abortion. We have been taught not to do that. Women don't talk about miscarriages. Women who have miscarriages always say, I didn't realize so many people have miscarriages. We don't talk about menopause. And over the last 2 years since the Dobbs decision, we have heard women talking about all those issues. They think they're scoring when they talk about tampon Tim Walz, or when they try to, have Trump saying you're going to be protected. I think women are feeling a liberation. We're finding a voice about our sexuality and our health that we have been trained to keep out of the public square, and we have a right to talk about it. And so hearing that testimonial and then hearing Trump over it, interestingly, his voice is louder, it's harsher, it is more certain, and yet hers is the voice that rings in your ear because it's truth. It's the truth of lives that many women lead. And it's time we talk about this front and center. You know, when you read the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision and there's all this, stuff about the 1700s and what happens in the 1700s and all this theoretical stuff, we've got to ground this in the reality of women's lives. And if there's one thing that is coming out of this, it is the boldness of women being prepared to talk about their health, and particularly their reproductive health, and talking about reproductive health care as health care. Which is something that I think is powerful and important. And we could have no better ambassador. I mean, you can see this with Vice President Harris. She came alive after the Dobbs decision. She is able to speak about this issue in a way that is so powerful and so authentic that it has touched every other aspect of her public presentation. And she has truly stepped into this moment and has made it her own. And made it a moment that all women can embrace and be a part of, whatever our age and whatever our history. We all have heard these stories. We know these stories to be true. And I don't think you're going to be able to put it back in the box. And that has to motivate, I think, many women as they think about who they're going to vote for.